your questions, and I've been, like so many other people, fiddling around with it just to see what it's like, and I'm not going to try and make a big sell of it, and I'm also not going to try to run it down. It's here. I wish it wasn't here, but ChatGPT exists, and it has a very considerable efficacy at some things. So what I thought I would do is test it this morning, and the first thing I did was test it on a book subject that I'm currently working on with someone else, and I just asked ChatGPT to come up with a few paragraphs, and it was really quite effective way of getting a first draft done. I don't know, I haven't written more than just a few hundred words with it, but I suppose that if I said write me a whole chapter about that for 10,000 words, it might do that too. So I was a bit actually relieved that it could generate a first draft for the person I'm helping, and it's all quite readable but very bland and impersonal. But then I thought, well, what else could it do? So I thought, it's London Book Fair coming up this week, and I wondered if the publishing industry has any idea that an author who might otherwise take months and months producing something could possibly generate a first draft in very little time at all, if the author is able to ask ChatGPT the right questions in order to elaborate the right, most appropriate content. And I wanted to do a live experiment on that, and I'm not going to do it with a whole book, so I thought I'll do a newspaper article, because I've written not gazillions, but certainly thousands of those. And often I would be writing a feature story, and with a feature story I would often go to a place where a certain kind of thing is happening, and I would talk to people about that thing, and then go back to my desk and laboriously write a transcript, and then shake up the transcript a bit and turn it into a slightly more opinionated story, and cut it and rewrite it and move things around a little bit, and then within a certain amount of time, and I am quite fast, within a certain amount of time it would be ready to send to my editor. And my experience today, this afternoon, in really a very short amount of time, gave me the feeling that I could be my own editor, commissioning my own journalist, which is ChatGPT, to go out and get some material, including the colour, as if at that event. So I took one particular example, which is it's London Book Fair. I'm writing this thing about how ChatGPT is changing things for writers. So I imagined that I would write a story as if on Tuesday I had been to London Book Fair, and I was hanging out there and soaking up the atmos and writing it all down and talking to people there and wondering whether they knew how much of a difference might be coming their way as a result of this technology, which can do things very fast, particularly writing a first draft. And so I gave some instructions to that technology, ChatGPT. Where is it? What have I got for you? So the first thing I did was I gave the instruction, write a dialogue between two agents at London Book Fair, in which one of them attempts to persuade the other that producing a book with ChatGPT will be entirely unlike producing any book in the past. And almost instantaneously, ChatGPT, which I'll just call it from now on because it's such a boring, stupid name, it produced, well, it's not a stupid name, but it's a bit of a mouthful. It produced a very, very workmanlike piece of dialogue. My next instruction was, using this dialogue, create a teasing paragraph about the future of publishing. And very rapidly it produced that. Then I said, write 7 bullet points about how an author struggling to meet a deadline can use ChatGPT to finish the first draft on time. And it did that. And after that I said, in 200 words, turn this, i.e. the thing that it had just generated, because ChatGPT remembers what you've already told it. In 200 words, turn this into the outline of a book about the future of publishing. And almost instantaneously it did that. It was quite impressive. It had a breakdown of chapter by chapter what the book will contain. I mean, this is almost instantly. So the first chapter was the current state of publishing. Hang on, I ought to check this while I'm just rambling on this live stream, but yeah, the first bit was about that, and the next bit was about, so this book proposal about the future of publishing, bearing in mind that dialogue. Chapter 1, Introduction to the Future of Publishing. Chapter 2, ChatGPT and the Writing Process. And it had a whole paragraph about each of those. Chapter 3, ChatGPT and the Publishing Process. So I'll just pause on that one because there are several chapters and I won't pause on all of them, but let's see. In this chapter, we will explore how ChatGPT can change the way books are published. We will discuss how publishers can use this technology to reduce costs, improve efficiency, and reach new audiences. We will also examine the potential impact of ChatGPT on traditional publishing models. Now, that sounds incredibly bland when you hear it that way, but I guess that if you're a publisher and you're listening to it and you're thinking about the potential impact on traditional publishing models, that might be somewhat unsettling. Okay, for my next question was, now please do this again so that it's more urgent and compelling. So the whole of that previous, as it were, book proposal was amended, and it started, the publishing industry is on the brink of a technological revolution and those who don't keep up will be left behind. My God. Yeah, it carried on. Anyway, it was all very thrilling and urgent. And then I said, this was a bit of a dead end, this one. Again, please, as if the book were written in the style of a detective story, but it was a bit rubbish at that, so that was no good. So then I changed my mind, changed my approach, changed the direction somewhat. And now I wanted it to think about something as a slightly different approach. So no longer writing a book proposal, no longer writing a dialogue between agents at London Book Fair. Now I gave quite a long piece of instructions to this AI thing. I said, and this is where I suppose I'm being very like a newspaper editor, more detailed in my commissioning than most newspaper editors. But anyway, here we go. I said, write a 400-word feature story for the Times newspaper about the London Book Fair. Start with 2 paragraphs of detailed description of the venue and of publishers talking to agents about the season's most promising books. In the 3rd paragraph, introduce the idea that publishing is about to be entirely revolutionised by ChatGPT, and end the paragraph with a question about why people working in the industry don't seem to realise what's coming. Continue the story with reference to the people in the room working in a variety of parts of the publishing industry: editors, marketing people, salespeople, management, and even shareholders in the big publishing companies. End the story with a quote from just one agent who seems to know the magnitude of the coming revolution. So that was really quite a detailed bit of editorial commissioning, and ChatGPT came up with the goods. I asked it to make a change, adding the date and the location of the London Book Fair, 18th of April to the 20th at London's Olympia. Then I said, add something around the 4th paragraph about attendees from the media, journalists, photographers, broadcasters and digital influencers, as well as representatives of Midas PR who oversee publicity for the book fair. So ChatGPT bunged them into the story. Rewrite this last version, I said, as dialogue between a representative of Midas PR and a photographer, and have the photographer be sceptical about the future of books with ChatGPT. And indeed, there was dialogue between a sceptical photographer and a PR. An invented PR, by the way. That is, I believe, the real name of the company doing PR for London Book Fair, but I just need to emphasise this is all completely me making it up because I wanted to experiment with ChatGPT. Then I said, going back to the description of the fair at Olympia, provide more detail using all 5 senses. So I got lots of noise and smells and the taste of the coffee and all that stuff. So I was just bunging in colour as if I had really been to Olympia, as I might have done if I really was being sent there by the Times. I thought, at this point I was thinking as a journalist, what sort of people might be at London Book Fair, and I didn't want them all to be London-based publishers, so I said, give me some dialogue from a publisher based in Edinburgh describing his journey to London for the book fair. And then I thought that the description of Olympia needed to be a little bit more precise, more as if I really had been there. So I asked, give me an architectural description of the interior of the Olympia Exhibition Centre. And I got really quite a long, detailed architectural description. It was too long, so I said, same again, please, but in half as many words and lose all the adjectives and adverbs. And then I thought that this story that I was making up, but which could quite possibly be written along similar lines on Tuesday when some journalist does go to London Book Fair, I thought it was lacking some data about the historical value of London Book Fair. So I asked, what book deals historically have been made at London Book Fair? And I instantaneously was told things about Dan Brown and the Harry Potter books and some other stuff. 50 Shades of Grey. Then I asked, in recent years, how many people have attended London Book Fair? So that was added instantly. And then I said, because I wanted to end the piece with me leaving the building feeling mixed feelings about having been there. And how do I know what it's like to leave Olympia unless I've been there? So I said to ChatGPT, please describe in 300 words the journey out of Olympia from one of the large halls at the centre without missing any turns until the traveller has reached a bus stop where buses will take him towards Kensington High Street. So I was being very specific. And I got several paragraphs about turn right here, turn left there, go all the way down the stairs. The stairs are well lit. Get to some double doors. There's a foyer. There'll be a crowd at the door. I mean, really very detailed description of just leaving the building. My last question was, how many minutes does the bus take from Olympia to Kensington High Street on a typical day? And it turns out that on a typical day, subject to traffic, it's about 20 minutes. And that's about how long it took me to do the whole of this article from scratch. Hardly longer than it's taken me now to describe it, nearly 13 minutes. So I wrote an article of, let's see how long it was. I curated an article of nearly 800 words using ChatGPT and a few questions. And what I learned from that experience was really that the art of this thing and using it is knowing what you want to ask it. Everything else is irrelevant. I mean, there's an infinite amount of data and even sensory and emotional material to be pulled in if you want to get it, but you're not going to get an interesting story unless you ask relatively interesting questions. No idea whether any of this is useful. Naturally, I hope that if you have found something useful, you might comment in some way or send me a message or something or other so I get to hear it. Tomorrow I'm going to be teaching writing of memoirs at Arvon, and I don't think most of the people who go to courses at Arvon are especially interested in ChatGPT, probably. However, I do think it would be a little bit derelict if I didn't at least mention to them that quite a lot of the writing process can be generated as a time-saving procedure, and that some of the questions that you need to ask if you're going to generate something interesting are the same questions that you would be asking if you were looking at your own handwritten first draft that had never been anywhere near artificial intelligence. You're asking yourself how to fill in some more colour, how to make it more moving emotionally, how to give it more drama probably, and how to be more correct in terms of facts. All of those things apply. Anyway, I just felt moved to do a quick live stream. I hope you've enjoyed watching. Bye.